Okay, good evening, all those millions of people listening. Tonight is last night was Memhei and the Aimer. Today we're gonna start that Memhei Gemara and hopefully get on to Mem Vav and Aleph. At least I got the mission over there. Okay, Zakti the Gemara. We're learning like about 6, 7 lines down. Masnisin like Rabbi Lazar and Yaakov. Our Mishnah should not be like the rest of Yaakov because our Mishnah says that you need the Zakanim, and Rabbi Yochanan and Yochanan Ben Yaakov says that you need the Melech and the Chayin Gadol. So let's see what he says inside. Zot Yelin Mishnah. Zot Yelin Gemara. Mesis like Rabbi Elazar Ben Yaakov, the Tanya of Elazar Ben Yaakov Aimer. Ziknecha, when he dashes a pasuk that we used yesterday to find that it's Machlekes Rutin of Yehuda and Shimon by Yehuda. Shimon, not Shimon by Yehuda. Shimon, whether each one of these words is two or just it's two total, and then a third because ein bez and shakel. So he says the Kanach Zu Sanhedrin. That's the three. We'll see exactly what he holds about the Sanhedrin. The Kanach Zu Sanhedrin. Shavtecha Zu Melech the Kain Gadol. Shavtecha Zu Melech the Kain Gadol. How do we know that Shafet refers to Kain Gadol? It says, how do we know it refers to the Melech? The Chsiv Melech Kamishvat Yamid Aretz. And so you see the lashon of mishpat by a king, and kain gadol l'chsivu basa l'kayanim alavim l'shavit ashiyet to the shavit that's on top of the l'kayanim, which is the kain gadol. Yiboilu. So now, okay, so we established that this mission is not Elazar ben Yaakov, who holds that not only do you need the zakanim, you also need the kain gadol and the king. Yiboilu Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov the melech l'kain gadol l'depalig. It's the only argument on the fact that you need a king. Aidelma. But Gabi, how many Sanhedrin he needs? He's going to either hold a Rabbi Yehuda or Shimon. Nami Palig. Rabbi Yehuda held 5 and Shimon held 3. So the question is Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov going to hold that by Sanhedrin we only need either 3 or 5 like Shimon or Rabbi Yehuda? Maybe he's going to hold that the Sanhedrin refers to the entire Sanhedrin. Amar Rav Yosef Tashma. I'm going to bring you a raya that it's the whole Sanhedrin. But someone Zaken Mamre, if the Zaken Mamre finds, in other words, he's not a Zaken Mamre yet. It's interesting, but fine. No, but so is Zaken. If a Dayan finds this the whole Bezdin, Abe Pagi. On Abe Pagi refers to anywhere outside of Yerushalayim. No, it's right outside Yerushalayim. The Himra Alei, and he argues with them. He's married on them halach. He doesn't listen to the halacha. So again, the halacha we said yesterday mistakenly on the wrong Gemara, but the halacha over here that we're talking about is that a zaken is not a imam; he's rebellious zaken, and he paskins connected the bezin agadol in Yerushalayim. He's mechayiv misa if he stays with his psak. If he finds them, asks them a shayla, and then fights them, maybe it's like a good amra, which means that he would be mechayiv misa. That it has to be on the place. No, that he went to their place of the lishkas gazis malamit shamakim gayim. In order for him to be considered a rebellious dayan that goes against the bezin agadol, it has to be that he went against it when they passed in the lishkas gazis. Right. So now the question is. So that's that brisa. That's the brisa. That if he finds him outside the lishkas hagazis, he's not considered a zaken mamre. How many did he find outside the walls? He found a part of them. Maybe the ones inside were agreed with his psak, and then even if they were the miyat, they would maybe have been able to convince the rest of the chevra to vote like the mamre. So it's not the full bezin. So you need the full bezin of 71 to be sitting and to paskin against this dayan, and then if he still holds his psak, then he's mechayiv misa. So in other words, so it can't be that only he met part of them. Because if some of them still remain in the Lashon Sagazis, or they weren't here, then it's not, we don't need the pasuk of a Kamta Lisa la Makam, that the Makam is guarded. I'm missing numbers. It's a numbers game at this point. So only when I have the full Bezdin, then I need the pasuk of a Kamta Lisa la Makam to tell me that the Makam is guarded on top of the 71. El Pshita enough Kakula. It must be that he bumped into the whole Dayan, the whole Shivim Ve'echad, the whole Bezdin Agadol bumped into them. Well, why were they outside? If they stopped when the first patzir, could they have gone out? Sarich Agan Hasar El Yasar Hamazak. This pasuk refers to the half moon bench that they all sat on, and he needs the lashon hamazug is a lashon that they still need 1/3 of Rashi said, which is a mazigas hakos. Mazigas hakos is 1/3 to 2/3. I think there's different pshatim in the Gemara. There's different references for that shear. The Gemara uses different numbers for that shear in other places, but Akitza Rashi is over here that the mazigas hakos is 1/3. 1/3 of 71 is 23.66, which we're going to round down to 23. So you need at least. The Gemara continues. Let's say so one has to go for a seger or whatever it is. If he has 23 guys left, if there's 23 dayanim left, then he can go out. But he cannot leave over less than 23 in the Lishos Gazas. Now Rashi points out, I think, or at least maybe the Sifta points out, they don't stay there the whole day 24/7. They only stay there until being Harbayim anyway. But the point is, they can't just walk. They weren't just walking on after being Abayim. After the Tamash being Abayim, you probably can't pass on anymore anyway. Right, I'm not sure exactly about that, but the point is, they don't have to sit there mamash all day. But while they're together, and they said, and them stam to find them out of Bezdin hours for them to all be together for just a random event is not shchiach anyway. They don't have like fundraisers for the Bezdin Agadol. So it wasn't really so again. He can't leave less than 20 days. So in other words, again, I can't have the whole bezin outside because they don't just stop and leave for Rishos, right? Even one dayan can leave for Rishos. So I can't leave stamazai. So so elamai, elapshita, the dvar mitzvah must be for a dvar mitzvah. The mai, so which so for what mitzvah do they need the bezin agadol? Lav the medida egla arufa. I'm going to add in Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Must be that this is Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov who holds that I need the whole shift bezin agadol to figure out to be moided and to deal with egla arufa, and that's the mitzvah they went on, and that's where the zakim mami wrote to them, and that's where the pasuk says if it's outside of the place you're not chayav misa, right? That's the chain. That's the flow. That's the Hamshach Limar. Amalei Abayalai lav dafka is it to deal with egla arufa. Dilma lachisaf al ir al azarais. I'm sorry. I have to. Okay. Maybe they're wanting to add on to the Ir Yushalayim and onto the Azara. In order to add kedusha to the Azara, you need the full Bezdin Agad of Shem Ve'echad. It's not like we looked in the first Mishnah of Sanhedrin. Ein Ma'asifin ala Ir ve'al Hazarais ela b'beis shel Shem Ve'echad. In order to add to the Azara, to kedusha Azara or kedusha Yushalayim, you can't just go to the zoning board and annex another like make the zip code a little bit bigger and annex another couple of blocks into Yushalayim. It has to be done by the Bezin Agadol. Tanika would say there, Yosef, even though we don't have a right from this brisa, what we just brought down, we have another brisa that's mamish exactly what Yosef wanted to say. But son abe pubi abe pagi vehimra aleim kagoin sheyatz lemedidas egla oila hisib al ha'ir v'al hazares. So you see the brisa says if they went out, if they were found abe pagi, which means right outside the kaisel, right outside the walls of Yerushalayim, and he was murdered against them. The guy, right? Why were they outside? For example, if they want to be murdered for Egla Rufa or to be Moisif on the air or the Azara, in Yerushalayim or the Azara, in that case, maybe his Hayra is. I think I typed the word Hamrasa is rebellious, but it's not accurate. Hamrasa is probably a lashon of Hamoira Hara, like his psak. He is a rebellious daim, but that's not what the word Hamra means. Maybe his psak is not a good psak. In other words, his psak does not entitle him, does not warrant a Mrs. Bezdin. Maybe it does. Maybe this is a good enough psak because he found the whole Shem Ve'echad outside, even if it was outside the Lishchas Gazas. There has to be dafka in the Lishchas Gazas with the whole 71 present. Okay, so our Mishnah said that if he's hidden or he's hanging from a tree, we don't bring Egla Rufa. It has to be that he's open in a field. Let's say from the following machlekes of the following two sheets, it's only Rabbi Yehuda, not the Rabbana. And the Tanya was jumping from Egla Rufa all the way to Lecha Shecha and Peah. More Shecha than anything else. The Shechachta Oimer Besada. If it says in the pasuk, the Shechachta Kisikta Katzircha Besada, the Shechachta Oimer Besada, Loisasha V'Kachtoi That's a mitzvah in the Torah, mitzvah asi deraisa of shichra. That if you forget a full bundle, you should not go back for it. Not if it's hidden, because if it's hidden, I never chapped about it. So only if it's open it's open, and then I forget about it, then it's okay. Again, Rabbi Yehuda said, when I forget the Eimer, when I get if I forget a bundle of Tvua in the field, it has to be that it wasn't Taman. Chum Eimer Besada l'Rabbis is Taman. Some say that the fact that it says V'shechachta Besada is to be Marba even Taman. So we want to say again, the kasha is right over here, not the kasha, but I'm saying the diak we want to make is over here, that our Mishnah says that Adama is come to Mimayit Taman, but Adama v'loy Taman. Right? The Mishnah says Shenamar ba'Adama v'loy Taman. So Adama is to be Mimayit Taman. So too, that stems with Rabbi Yehuda that says V'shechachta Arme V'Sada, which is Prat Taman. And Rabbi Yehuda, the Rabbanan would say that Sada is Marba Taman would not seem to stem with our Mishnah. Amar Rav Afilu Tema Rabbanan, it's not a good sushtal because Rabbanan might also agree with our Mishnah. Every kra you have to take in context. It's not just Hadama Hasada, whatever. It's based off the way the pasuk is structured and the previous drushim. That's how I would use the word Hasada or Adama. Our pasuk says by it says ki matzachal, which seems to imply however you found it, when it's found, which means found, hidden, upside down, doesn't matter what's going on, as long as you found it. Ba'adama pralataman. So Ba'adam is saying no, but it has to be that you found them, but we're open, not Taman. So therefore, again, even the Rabbanah that say Hasada in Ketzircha, by Shikha is Prat Taman, but over here he would say that because it says Ki Matzachal, which would imply any finding whatsoever, then it's the Mayit later with Basada, that's come to be Mayit Taman. You have to look at the context of the pasuk. Second, I'm sorry, my kids are texting me. Okay, that's not important. Okay, Hakam in Yana the Cross, in the Krog you want to find the Krog ki sikta Ketzircha Basada v'shechachta Omer. Shikha dumi the katzer. It's because it has to be a shikha that is similar to a katzer. My katzer bagali, av shikha bagali. So Rabban over there are saying that it has to be an open katzir. Just like katzir is open, so the shikha also has to be open. Katzer rachmana basad l'rabbis is tamen. Again, so even the it's coming to say that even Taman is also chayiv. Even Taman is also chayiv, unless you can just learn that from. Oh, no, it's maybe I only right. Okay, that's what he says. Maybe because the pasuk is mashma that only open tvua is subject to shecha tamad loimer even basada even taman because the mashmois of the pasuk is to be mamay taman. So an extra word is going to be marba taman. By loichalo kimatza chalo is going to be mamayit, but it's going to be marba taman. So adama is going to be mamayit chalo taman. I'm sorry. Again, it's a mashmois to the pasuk. When the pasuk sounds by default that it's going to be marbasam, it's going to include all cases, and then there's an extra word. That extra word is going to be mayit. So in our case, lo yichal, according to Rabban, lo yichal, any lo yimatza chalal, when you found any chalal, then the extra word adama is saying no, not any chalal, only one that wasn't hidden. But by Sada it says there's a drush from the pasuk to say that it has to be dafka Bagali, because it has to be a similar of a shikha has to be similar to cutting. So the actual basad is going to be mamba even taman. Now Yehuda nami tepuk lei mishikha dami the katzer. Let Rabbi Yehuda also say that shikha should be compared to katzer, and therefore what? Then his sada should also come to then his sada is extra because it says basada. He could already learn out. He learns that taman is. He learns that Taman is pater. So let him learn out from Taman is pater, and he said from Sadecha, Basada. So let him learn it out from Shecha Dimi Dekatze, and of the Gemara and a Chanami. The Elba Sada Lamali. So what does he do with the extra word Sada? Again, the Rabbani use the word Sada to be Marve Taman. But Rabbi Yehuda is not Marve Taman. Rabbi Yehuda says that Taman is Potter. So what does he do with Sada? If I forget the stalks that are still attached to the ground, that's also, in other words, it's the Sada Shikha. What's the pasuk? The sedecha v'shachachta means it's still on your land and you forgot it. So now the Rabbana that use Sada, Basada, to teach me to be Marbe Tamun. How do they know that Shikha Kama is also Pater, is also Chayiv? In other words, you cannot leave it, you cannot go back and get it. It says because it says, he learns it out from the smichos. Rabbi Yehuda learns it out. I match it up. Rabbi Yehuda learns it out from the extra word sada. The Rabbana learning out from the smichos of the word b'sadecha tishkach. So the fact that it bleeds in from one word to the next, that shows you that even if it's in your field and it's forgotten, it's still chayav and shechma. Rabbana mibayile because Rabbi Lazar. What do they do with the smichos? It has to be in your field and not when the wind blew it into your neighbor's field. So if the wind blew it into your neighbor's field, then it's not included in shecha. But Rabbanan mivasada b'sadecha. It didn't have to say b'sadecha, it could have said b'sadecha, but the fact that it says yours, it implies it has to be in your field. But Rabbanan b'sadecha loy mashmalei. So again, Rabbi Yehuda learns from the smichos of B'shikha b'sada, that has to be in your field and not your neighbors. He learns out the word from b'sada that it has to be shichas kaima, and he learns out from he makes a smichas of ketzircha to shikha, that the ketzircha, just like ketzircha has to be begali, so to the shikha has to be begali, and tamon is pater. The Rabbanan say it's the master from the pasuk that tamon is pater. Basadecha tells you that tamon is chayiv. From the smichas he learns out that kaima, that shichas kaima is chayiv. That if you forget it when it's all attached to the ground, and because it could have said sadeh, not sadecha, he learns out that it has to be in your field. Boy, Rabbi Yirmiyah asks the question: What happens if the wind blows and it stacks two piles on top of each other? Avir sadeh kesadeh dami, I love kesadeh dami. I don't know if it's dafka that it stacks, but let's say let's just that's how I understood it. Give me 1 second. No, it's not. It doesn't have to be on top of another stack. It could be either way. It could be a stack there, or it could be a stack on top of a stack, or on top of a rock. In other words, it's not laying on the ground. So what's the halacha? So again, if in your own field the stacks get blown off and either on top of each other or blown on top of a rock or somewhere, what's the halacha? Is it avir sada kesada? Is the avir the sada like your sada, and therefore it's still mechayiv in shecha dami? I love kesada dami, or it's not considered like your sada, and therefore it's pater from shecha. I'm a Rav Kahana, Rav Papi, Amila, Rav Kahana, Rav Zvid. Either Rav Kahana says, "Oh, it's Rav Papi, Rav Zvid." Tifshait lei medrab abo bar Amar Rav Lazar. Rav Lazar. We just had this halacha. Let's learn out the answer to Rav Yirmiyah's question from the halacha of Amar Rav Lazar. The Amar prat l'shetzafu amarim l'seich sedei chaveri. The seich sedei chaveri. He says that the Joshua is that it's prat l'shetzafu amarim l'seich sedei chaveri. If it stacks on top of your friend's field, then you're pater. So the chavera in l'seich sedei light. If it was stacked or it was put on a rock in your friend's field, but if it was in your field, then it's still mechayiv in meiser. It's still mechayiv in shecha. And the Gemara l'tamech l'seich sedei chavera tzafu in menachin lai. If I put it there, in other words, if it's on the ground in my friend's field. In other words, you want to be medayik from his words that if it's stacked in my friend's field, then I'm pater. But if that means that if it was stacked in my field, then I'm chayiv. But if using the same lumdas, the same logic, I would say it means if it was stacked in my friend's field, then I'm chayiv. then I'm pater. But if it was put down in my friend's field, then I'm chayiv. Again, we want to make a raya from Ravo's din. Ravo said that if it's stacked in my friend's field, which means it's not resting on the ground, it's either on a rock or on another stack. if it was stacked in my friend's field, I'm pater. So you want to make a deal. The answer to Yemi's question: if it's stacked in my friend's field, it's pater. But if it's stacked in my field, then it's chayiv. But with the same type of deal, I could say if it's stacked in my friend's field, it's pater. But if it's put in my friend's field, then it's chayiv. But that doesn't make any sense. It has to be in your field. You can't forget it in someone else's field. It's not considered your field. It's not considered shicha. Ella. So what does it mean? Even munachin. Even, which means it's on the ground. No, that's a normal thing. How does it end up in your friend's field? You don't put your stuff in your friend's field. The wind blew it. You can't make any diukim, and you can't bring any rayas from that member, because that member just said agav orchatayt. It would the thing that's common. I think agav orchatayt. That's lashon. Talk to the Gemara. Tashma. If I was machazik, I tied up a bundle and I was going to take it to marketplace. Then I put it on another stalk of it, and I forgot it. Hatachta and shikha ve'alyan in the shikha. The bottom is shikha because of taman nechayra, and the top is not shikha. Reb Shimon ben Yehuda Amar Mishum Reb Shimon shneim and shikha. They're both not shikha. Hatachta mifnei shehu taman. Again, it's in a shikha because he holds that taman is not it's marbet that even taman is chayav. Hatachta and shikha again. The Tanakhama says Tashma. If I tie up a bundle to bring to the market and I put it on top of his friend, not his friend is another guy, but his friend another bundle. The bottom is shikha because I don't care that it's covered, and the top is not because we're going to see in a second, but because it's not resting on the field, and it's we'll see what it is. We'll see the having in a second. Shimon Yehuda Amar no. Shimon Shneim ein shechah. They're both not shechah. Tachan mifnei shehu tamun. The bottom is because it's tamun. Va'eliyam mifnei shehu tzaf, and the other one is because it's floating and it's not actually on the field. Ad kan lepligi al b'tachtin. Mice only arguing about the tachtin. Al be'eliyam divrei hakol lo have a shechah. But we see the top is not. Everyone holds that it's not shechah. It must be that, like Rabbi Yirmiyah's question, I want that safu in my field, floating in my field, is pater. And the Gemara, Shani Hasam Kivin the Echsik by Zachabe, because I was machzik it, I tied it up and I was paying it in a way, even though it's mine to begin with, but I was zoich in it. That's what the Gemara says, whatever that means, exactly why he's more zoich than when he picked it up. But when he's he set his mind to it, he took it already, and then he put it back down afterwards. Yeah, right. So therefore, that's why the top has nothing to do with tzaf. Why do you have to say that he put it on top of his friend? Let's say that he was machzik and he put it back on the ground. I could have said that. I wanted to teach you the halacha of the tachton. I wanted to show you the machlokes between the Tanakhama and Shimon Yehuda. In the name of Reb Shimon, that Mishum Tachton is pater from shecha because of taman. Reb Shimon Yehuda says that the bottom one is pater mishum taman, and the top one is pater mishum tzaf. So the top because he was machzik is because of tzaf, and the aim of shehu kitzaf. It's like tzaf, which is pater, but tzaf but it still wouldn't be a raya from here. The Gemara has an issue. The Rishonim have an issue with this lashon according to Rashi. This is how Rashi explains it. It's a little bit circular reasoning because he's saying it's like tzaf, which is pater. We're trying to bring a raya from the story, whether it's pater or not. But we end off that there's not a raya from here. Amar Rabaya, Hareini keben azay b'shuki tvaris. It's very interesting. I think the Yaakov says, I forgot, that wasn't the Yaakov, someone else. But he says, what's this lashon? He says when Ben Azay b'shuki tvaris, why was Ben Azay darshaning in the shuki tvaris? Why was he hanging out in the shuki tvaris? Because so many people came to visit him to listen to his Torah that he couldn't contain him in the Spanish anymore. So when he has such a replay of Talmidim, he have an extra clarity in the sugya and extra clarity in the Gemara to be able to give it over. So Rabbi was saying, I guess either he was in the middle of a Joshua, he was going to Joshua and his mom should full house. So he felt that he had this extra siyat d'shmaya like Ben Azai in the Shukya Torah. Amalei hahum d'Rabbanan. So he basically saying, ask me anything kind of thing. You have two bodies, two corpses stacked. Where do you measure from? No, it's from which one do you measure? Now we're going to get up to the next mission is going to discuss the measuring techniques and from where in the body you measure from, but we're kind of jumping the gun over here. Min b'minai have a taman. So we're going to go through a few different options. Min b'minai have a taman, or min b'minai loy have a tzaf, or me'alyan ma'idei. In other words, do you say that min b'minai is taman and min b'minai is not tzaf? So the first one is not floating in the ground, but is laying on the ground. He's not floating in the air, but laying on the ground. The bottom one is not being covered, is covered, so he doesn't really exist because taman prat le adama prat le taman. So umay eldian ma'idei. So the only one that's negea for ma'idei purposes, for measuring purposes, is a top corpse. Aidilma min b'mina have it tough, or you say that the one corpse min b'mina is tough, or min b'mina loy have a taman, and it's not taman. Umetachtim ma'idei. So it's tough, but not taman, so the bottom one's only relevant corpse for eglalufa moedid purposes. Aidilma mimimine have a taman, mimimine have itself. In other words, I have two disqualified corpses here. One because of taman, one because of tzaf. Rashi points out you could just as well say that they each are not disqualified, and I have two corpses here. And Rashi and that's nechal in this whole what we just said. I think we want to just lose that one case, but fine. Amalei Tanisua. It's a Mishnah. Aimer shehachzik boy lahalichlay la'ir v'anichai agav b'chaver v'shechay hatachta in shecha v'alyan in a shecha. So it's a brisa. We just had this brisa of an Amar Aleph over here that if his machzik is bundle and he puts it on top of his friend and he forgets it, then the tachta in a shecha v'alyan in a shecha. Mishum ben Yehuda, I'm a Mishum Shimon, Shnei men shecha v'tachta mifnei shehu taman v'alyan mifnei shehu tzaf. Now, we don't have a clear answer on this because the only one they're able to answer is the fact that min b'minai is for sure considered taman. We'll see the Gemara plays that in a second. So Vru Dahani Tanai, these are Rabbanan that asked Abaye this question, they assume Dahani Tanai Rabbi Yehuda. Everybody holds that taman is pater. The Amar Basada Prat Taman. My lab, so what are they arguing in? The Marsava min have a taman. Marsava loy have a taman. According to the Tanakama held that min is Marsava min have a taman. Marsava loy have a taman. According to the Tanakama, it's not. Because it's min is taman. Is not taman, very good, because they both again. The Havimina is again the Hani Tanai Rabbi Yehuda Sira. Everyone holds that what the Amar Basada Prat Taman. Taman is pater by Shikha. So my labachim the Mars of a min b'minai have a taman. One the man that says that Shikha, the bottom one is Shikha, is because it's not taman. Umar said I have a taman. So the Tanakhama says it's not taman, and therefore it's shikha. And Shimon says it is taman, and that's it is taman, which is why it's not shikha. It's why it's not shikha and it's pater. And we're like Ikra Yehuda Silu the Kuli Ama min b'mina have a taman. According to, if you hold the Rabbi Yehuda, everybody holds that min b'mina is taman. So why does Rabbanan say that you're mechuyev in? Oh, I'm sorry. Why does the Tanakhama say that it's shikha if it's not? Why does Shimon say that it's not shikha if it's taman? The Rabbanan, the Tanakhama holds like the Rabbanan that say that even taman is shikha. Rabbi Shimon Yehuda, and Rabbi Shimon Yehuda says that it's not shikha because it's taman, and taman is part of shikha. Again, they both hold that it's taman, but it doesn't help because according to the Tanakhama, taman is also chayiv. So my area agabe chaveri afilu be'afar ubetzor nami. What's the point of saying that it was hidden on top of another stalk? It could have just said that it was hidden in rocks and offer and dirt and rocks and a chanami. This is to show you this halacha exactly. The mimina according to Yehuda is taman. So we could be mefaret. At least we could explain one answer over here. One of these scenarios And we could say for sure that Taman is Mimamina is for sure Taman. So if I have, we don't know what's considered tough, so we can't be punched all the shilas, but at least we can get to one of them that Mimamina is for sure Taman. So the pasuk says, Ki yimatze chalo ba'adama asher Hashem lekechem leisin l'chalo rishto noifel b'sada loy noida mihi kahu. So that we're going to dash in some of these words over here. Chalo v'loy chanok, chalo v'loy mefarper. It has to be that he was not choked, and it has to be that he's not like a geisis. Ba'adama v'loy tamim b'gal, it has to be ba'adama, and it's not hidden on the rocks. Noifel v'loy tal ba'etz, ba'Ilan. It has to be that it's doubtful he fell, and not that he's still hanging in the tree. But Sotah Daf tough al panei mayim, that is to be on dry land and not in the water. If at any it's only he's the only mamayit the fact that it can't be a chanuk, but with the fact that it can't be on the ilan or the sada, or the fact that it can't be hidden, he holds that the only issue is whether he was killed with a sword or he was choked. Choking would be a disqualifying corpse, but any other killing, like an actual killing with like a real weapons involved, that would be a chal. You ask him that if he was a chanuk, that he was choked, and he was laying on the ground, then he would not be arfin. Why? Because I'm a chal. You see, you dash in chal chanuk. You should also dash in other words. You should also dash in other mutim. Just like you dash in chal, can't be chanuk, it can't be choke. It has to be an actual wound. So too, you should dash in other ones. But Rabbi Kiva, Rabbi Lazar, chalal yatera ksiv. There's a bunch of times where it says chalal that's unnecessary, and because of that, it's marba and chalal. That means it has to be an actual wound and not a choking. Nimtza samach asfar oy the ear sharuba gayim. The chsiv ki yimatza, and it's found. In other words, it has to be some sort of chiddush. Pat lematzoi, it can't be a common occurrence, and it's always there, and it's not a chiddush anymore. Then it's not considered. Then it's not part of this parsha. Oy the ear she'im babezin the beina ziknei ear velaka. I remember this. This was machlekes a little bit early in the Masechta. I guess we're passing like the number that says that the ziknei ear is not a mitzvah. It's ma'akev. So you're not moided to a city that doesn't have a bezin, and a moided el ear. In fact, the pshita. So now it's saying that you don't only moided to an ear that has a bezin. In fact, the pshita. Given the tanal ear she'im ba bezin, I know you. It's since that I'm not moided to a shear to a ear that doesn't have a bezin. I know you down the moided el ear she'yesh bezin. It means it has to be a city that does have a bezin. Hakamash look at the Tanya. Minayin she'im nimtza samach le'ear she'im ba bezin. Shemanichin oisar. We let that city go. We say, okay, you don't count. Maybe we just stop the whole process. And we say, oh, what's the closest city? A city that doesn't have a bezin. Okay, everybody go home. It's done. Abort. We're not doing Egla Rufa today. But how do we know the manichin? Let's say, okay, stop and let's go to the next city. Whichever city they might be, that is considered that's you might do to that other city. If it's exactly between two cities, they have to each bring one egla rufa. This is what Rabbi Lezer holds that this, and he's going to bring a diak from the Gemara is going to bring a raya from a pasuk. His diak at least, his drasha. The Ein Yerushalayim Mevi'in Egla Rufa. Yerushalayim is not part of this whole sugya. So if it's closer to Yerushalayim, I guess you just skip it and you move to the next one. If it's a little gruesome, but if someone's head is completely severed and his head in one place and his body is in another place, then what do? You bring the head to the body, and we're going to see Lagabi what halacha we're referring to. You go after the reish, you move the body to the head, and that's where we're going to see it's talking about Meis Mitzvah, that he's kind of the earth and you could bury him on the spot. From where on the body are you might? In other words, the person could be 6 feet tall. So I guess you have some cities that is close enough that if you start from the head and you go this way, this is closer. You go to the feet and you go this way, this is closer. So how do you know where to start from the body? Where are we? Mike Lutfi, Ayin how you might conduct the Mishnah spell. Rabeleza Aimer mitibure from his belly button, from the navel, from the middle of the person. Bekiva Aimer mechatni from his nose. Rabeleza ben Yaakov Aimer makam shenasa chalal mitzavare from his neck. Now, I'm not 100% sure. I didn't spend a lot of time in it, but I looked for a second. I didn't notice anyone say anything. Let's say he stabbed in his heart. Is the makam chalal now his heart? I don't think so, because we see that chalal. The reason why he says chalal is mitzavari his neck is because stam chalal is neck. And we had this before. I want not by Avshalom, by someone else that was cursed with his neck. Who was it? It's early in the Gemara when it was discussing everyone who got cursed by their attributes. And it says I forgot where I put this down. It says that there are 5 people who had tremendous milas. Okay, I don't remember who it was. I think it was over here. Hold on. Amisha. No, okay, I'm not gonna. No, it's right over here somewhere. I just don't know where it is exactly. Okay, I can see there are 5 chaver that had tremendous milas in certain physical attributes, and they all got hit with that attribute. So one of them, I forgot who it was. Maybe Shaul. I don't know. Shaul committed suicide? I don't think so. It was one of them that committed suicide. Give me a second. Okay, I don't know. I forgot who. Avshalom was with his hair. Avshalom was with his hair. Shimshon was with his kayak, and there was another few. I think Shaul was with his neck. And I think Shaul killed himself. I don't remember Shaul killing himself. Okay. I don't remember exactly what happened. Avshalom was with his hair, so it wasn't Avshalom. Okay. Okay, I don't remember. But one of the 5 that got killed, it was that he jumped up on a sword. And the Gemara says, Pashas, it was his neck. Even though it's not Pashas, on a practical level, if you try to commit suicide by stabbing yourself in the neck, it's going to be very difficult. The way they used to do it is they used to lean on their swords into their stomachs. So I would just from just what I got from the Gemara, I would say that the chol is mitzavari dafka according to Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov. Nothing more about that. My time of Rabbi Lezer. What's the reason Rabbi Lezer you bring 2 egla rufus when there's exactly they're equidistant from the chol? What's his because first of all, there's a famous call in Shas Samsa, which means it's never going to be exactly the same, right? He says no, you could. It's mashma kroiva that even many cities that are close to it, that whoever it doesn't have to be only one, the most closest. It could be anyone that's the closest would bring. So if there's 2 closest, then they would both bring. Larishta, it says, we just said in the passage that Hashem gave you this land to Yarshin, Ukasava, and this Tana hold, Yerushalayim when it's Talcom, L'Shvatim. Even though we had that Yerushalayim wasn't given out to Chelik in the Shvatim, and even though we just had recently that Binyamin was Zaycha to the Fesh Kedoshim being in his Chelik, it's still ownership, it's just like in his region, I guess. But it's not, he doesn't have bias over it. He can't just decide to close up shop and know everyone go home when I'm doing the regulars here. It's not his chelik in that way. It's just that it's in his neighborhood. It could be the tzaka machlekes sugis, but I think it could stem. I don't see why not. Nimtza roisha v'malkim b'maykim l'fugim. What's the machlekes? Where do you bring the head and the nose? What's the machlekes? Where do you bring the head of the body? If you can say the machlekes is where do you start measuring from? How many tani sefer me'ayin? How you might it in the ratio if the next part of the Mishnah says where do you measure from, it obviously the first machlekes that we're talking about is not about measuring. They're arguing in there's a halacha that a meisatz is kind of his makam, that wherever if a person dies and he doesn't have any relatives and no one's taking care of him, wherever he dies you could bury him automatically. It's probably the Kanas Ezra, like that type of thing, but so the question is, where is he kind of? His head's over there and his body's over here. So which place is he kind of? Now it could be 20 feet away and it could make a big enough commitment. Is it in my field or in your field? Or it's in good land or bad land? So which is his Dal Amis that he gets? And this is the story. You bring the body towards the guf, and where the guf is, that's the dalalamas. You bring it next to the body. Michael, what's the machlekes? What is the machlekes in Svara? It makes sense that his body fell where it is. In other words, they chopped off his head, and the head is round till it rolls. The nafel gufa who the right azal. In other words, he was running, and the guy chopped off his head while he was running, and the momentum of the running, his head landed on the spot, and his body kept on moving from adrenaline. But I just had this thought now, if his head is uphill and the body is here, everyone understands that the body went further than the head because heads don't roll uphill. That's how I'm saying when it's obvious, if this is the machlekes, the way the Gemara is presenting it, that we just don't know what happened. We don't know what happened, and we have to just, we're going to go with chazaka of how people die, whatever that means, right? But the chayra, if it's obvious that the head cannot have rolled to where it is, and the body must have moved from where the guy originally died, either from blood spatter, like if you just see a tremendous amount of blood, and then the body 10 feet away, so you know that this was the makam that he got killed. I'm saying I would just assume that that's the case, based off the way the Gemara describes this. Ma'ayin, sorry for the graphic. Ma'ayin, how you might live. But Michael, what's the machlekes of the belly button or the nose? What's the shayrish of the machlekes? What's the start? Marsa be'ikr chiyusa ba'ape. One says the ikr life force is in the nose. I'm going to see why in a second. You might already know this because it's pretty straightforward. And one is the belly button, which is also pretty well known where that comes from. Let's say it's the same machlekes like the following machlekes. Where does the vlad start being created from? Inside the rechem imay, from his head. How do I know? From my inside my mother, you're going to throw me out. Throw out my hair and take my hair and throw it. So you see the gize, that's the tzushta over here, and it says by the other gize it says nizrech, which refers to the hair. So you see by the head, that's the ikr. That's that's where it starts from. It starts on his belly button and sprouts out from there. And the chayra, the way the umbilical cord is from belly button to belly button, the chayra that seems to be on a physical, like the way we understand it, the most common, the thing that makes the most sense. This Joshua with the head is a little bit interesting, but it sounds like it starts from the beginning and then it goes from there. The Gemara says no. Even Abishal that holds that the Vlad starts from the Rechem Imai B'Tiburai would also hold that killing it goes after the nose. Why? Ad kan like Amar Abishal El in Yitzira. He's talking about creation. Creation starts from the belly button. Okay, that's what he holds. The Chimitzar Vlad Mitzar Vlad, when the Vlad is created, Mitziyase Mitzar. From the middle, he's created. No, it's from the belly button. Aval in Chiyusa, but the fact that what is the life force of a person? The Kuli Ama Ba'apehu, it's for sure the nose. Why the Chsid Kol Asher Nishmas Ruach Chayim Ba'apecha. This refers to the Mabul that says what everyone that has a living breath is going to die. I guess it's more direct than saying Hashem blew into Nishmas Chaim into his nose, because this is referring to all people as Ruach Chaim Ba'apav. Okay, that's more. I guess it's more direct. But in Kitzur, we see that Abishal could even hold like the other, like Rabbi Kiva, but Rabbi Lazar for sure has to hold like Abishal.
How it goes to
because he's held that it goes after the belly. Again, let's go back to the Mishnah for a second. So he has to hold like Abishal. Rabbi Kiva mechatmai. So Abishal could hold like Rabbi Kiva or like Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar has to hold like Abishal. Okay. One more shtickle, and then we're going to call it a night. The third shita of where do you measure from? My time of Elazar ben Yaakov the Kedichsiv Laseis Oischa Oisach Atzavari Chalalei V'Sham. Putting yourselves on the necks of dead V'Shayim, and also that refers to, you see, Chalalim also refers is synonymous or is juxtaposed in the pasuk with the neck. Okay, we'll start the next mission tomorrow. Have a beautiful night. Shkoyach for joining.
Thank you, Mo.